Nityanandam, everyone, welcome. I'm very privileged and excited to be here today. And actually, just want to start this session with chanting Sadguru Vandanam. Nityanandam Paramasukadam Kevalam Jnanamurtim Dvandvatitam Gagana Sadusham Tattvamasyaadilaksham Ekam Nityam Vimalamachalam Sarvadhi Sakshi Bhutam Bhavatitam Trigunaraitam Sadgurum Tam Namami. Nityanandam, welcome. Thank you. Today we're going to venture into Bhagavad Gita, one of the greatest texts available, and it's essentially an essence of the Vedas and essence of Mahabharat epic and essence of Srimad Bhagavatam. So it's we're going to enter into this is reading from the Bhagavad Gita Demystified. So there's a link along with this video, so you can download your own copy. There's various sources that Swamiji has revealed and recorded. So there's other links here also. We're going to start with just the first approximately 5 pages of this volume, which is background of Bhagavad Gita. So before getting into the verses, which this comes as 18 chapters, we'll start with the background of Bhagavad Gita itself. So actually in Vedic tradition, in Hinduism, to be considered an acharya, one who lives what he teaches, he or she teaches, it's required that one has done commentary on Brahma Sutras, Upanishads, and Bhagavad Gita. So of course Swamiji has done commentary on all of these. It's all available online, much of it in video format. Of course Swamiji is head of Mahanirvanayakara, the oldest apex body of Hinduism, and he's also Acharya Mandaleshwara of Atalakara, and he's the head of more than 12 major Hindu organizations, which includes many thousands of temples, and has been bestowed with these responsibilities by by all the various major heads of Hinduism worldwide. So he's recognized by Narendra Giriji, who is can be known as the Pope of Hinduism, who's head of the main board of the 13 Akaras, which is kind of the 13 major Hindu organizations. Narendra Giriji, Sri Narendra Giriji, is the head of that organization, and he has recognized Swamiji as a unique enlightened incarnation that has come to really guide all of humanity, and has recognized and recommended, especially for children, to benefit from the gifts that Swamiji gives through his Gurukul. And amongst this and many other titles that we'll get into in separate videos, responsibilities and blessings that Swamiji has taken up and will bestow upon the entire humanity and the entire globe, involves being recognized by many other great masters such as Satya Sai Baba, who had coordinated Swamiji as head of that Sarvanya Pitam, Bhaginagara also. And many of these things people don't know. And we're just going to continue to learn and benefit from everything that Swamiji is giving as much as possible. We'll start with today with Bhagavad Gita, and we'll get into some of the other topics also in further videos. So for today, we'll start with Bhagavad Gita, the background of Bhagavad Gita from the Bhagavad Gita Demystified from Swamiji. So you can find this version in the link that is included here with the video. Bhagavad Gita is a sacred scripture of the Vedic culture. As with all scriptures, it was knowledge that was transmitted verbally. It was called Shruti in Sanskrit, meaning something that is heard. Gita, as Bhagavad Gita is generally called, translates literally from Sanskrit as sacred song. Unlike Vedas and Upanishads, which are standalone expressions, Gita is written into the Hindu epic Mahabharata, called a Purana, an ancient tale. It is part of a story, so to speak. As a scripture, Gita is part of the ancient knowledge base of the Vedic tradition, which is the expression of the experiences of great sages. Vedas and Upanishads, the foundation of Shruti literature, arose from the insight and awareness of these great sages when they went into a no-mind state. These are as old as humanity and the first and truest expressions in the journey of man's search for truth. Unlike Vedas, which were revealed to the great sages, or Upanishads, which were the teachings of these great sages, Gita is part of a story narrated by Vyasa, one of these great sages. It is narrated as the direct expression of the divine. No other epic or part of an epic has the special status of Gita. As a consequence of the presence of Gita, the Mahabharata epic itself is considered a sacred Hindu scripture. Gita arose from the superconsciousness of Krishna, the supreme God, and is therefore considered a scripture. Mahabharata, literally meaning the Great Bharat, is a narration about the nation and civilization, which is now known as India. It was then a nation ruled by King Bharat and his descendants. The story of this epic is about two warring clans, Kauravas and Pandavas, closely related to one another. Dhritarashtra, the blind king of Hastinapur and father of the 100 Kaurava brothers, was the brother of Pandu, whose children were the 5 Pandava princes. It is a tale of strife between cousins. Since Dhritarashtra was blind, Pandu was made the king of Hastinapur. Pandu was cursed by a sage that he would die if he ever entered into a physical relationship with his wives. He therefore had no children. Vyasa says that all the 5 Pandava children were born to their mothers, Kunti and Madri, through the blessing of divine beings. Pandu handed over the kingdom and his children to his blind brother Dhritarashtra and retired to meditate in the forest. Kunti had received a boon when she was still a young, unmarried adolescent, that she could summon any divine power at will to father a child. Before she married, she tested her boon. The sun god Surya appeared before her. Karna was born to her as a result. In fear of social reprisals, she cast the newborn away in a river. Yudhishthira, Bhima, and Arjun were born to Kunti after her marriage by invocation of her powers, and the twins Nakula and Sahadeva were born to Madri, the second wife of Pandu. Yudhishthira was born to Kunti as a result of her being blessed by Yama, the god of death and justice, Bhima by Vayu, the god of wind, and Arjun by Indra, god of all the divine beings. Nakula and Sahadeva, though youngest Pandava twins, were born to Madri through the divine Aswin twins. Dhritarashtra had 100 sons through his wife Gandhari. The eldest of these Kaurava princes was Duryodhana. Duryodhana felt no love for his Pandava cousins. He made many unsuccessful attempts, along with his brother Dushasana, to kill the Pandava brothers. Kunti's eldest son Karna, whom she had cast away at birth, was found and brought up by a chariot driver in the palace, and by a strange twist of fate joined hands with Duryodhana. Dhritarashtra gave Yudhishthira 1/2 of the Kuru kingdom on his coming of age, since the Pandava prince was the rightful heir to the throne that his father Pandu had vacated. Yudhishthira ruled from his new capital, Indraprastha, along with his brothers Bhima, Arjun, Nakula, and Sahadeva. Arjun won the hand of Princess Draupadi, daughter of the king of Panchala, in a Swamvara, a marital contest in which princes fought for the hand of a fair damsel. In fulfillment of their mother Kunti's desire that the brothers share everything equally, Draupadi became the wife of all 5 Pandava brothers. Duryodhana persuaded Yudhishthira to join a gambling session, where his cunning uncle Sakuni defeated the Pandava king. Yudhishthira lost all that he owned, his kingdom, his brothers, his wife, and himself, to Duryodhana. Dushasana shamed Draupadi in public by trying to disrobe her. The Pandava brothers and Draupadi were forced to go into exile for 14 years, with the condition that in the last year they should live incognito. At the end of the 14 years, the Pandava brothers tried to reclaim their kingdom. In this effort, they were helped by Krishna, the king of the Yadava clan, who is considered the 8th divine incarnation of Vishnu. However, Duryodhana refused to yield even a needlepoint of land, and as a result, the Great War, the War of Mahabharata, ensued. In this war, various rulers of the entire nation that is modern India aligned with one or the other of these 2 clans, the Kauravas or the Pandavas. Krishna offered to join with either of the 2 clans. He said, "One of you may have me unarmed. I will not take any part in the battle. The other may have my entire Yadava army." When the offer was first made to Duryodhana, he predictably chose the large and well-armed Yadava army, in preference to the unarmed Krishna. Arjun joyfully and gratefully chose his friend and mentor Krishna to be his unarmed charioteer. The armies assembled in the vast field of Kurukshetra, now in the state of Haryana in modern-day India. All the kings and princes were related to one another and were often on opposite sides. Facing the Kaurava army and his friends relatives, and teachers, Arjuna was overcome by remorse and guilt and wanted to walk away from the battle. Krishna's dialogue with Arjuna on the battlefield of Kurukshetra is the content of Bhagavad Gita. Krishna persuaded Arjuna to take up arms and vanquish his enemies. They are already dead, says Krishna. All those who are facing you have been already killed by me. Go ahead and do what you have to do. That is your duty. Do not worry about the outcome. Leave that to me. Gita is the ultimate practical teaching on the inner science of spirituality. It is not, as some scholars incorrectly claim, a promotion of violence. It is about the impermanence of the mind and body and the need to go beyond the mind, ego, and logic. Being blind, King Dhritarashtra does not participate in the war. His minister, Sanjaya, uses his powers of clairvoyance to see and relate to King Dhritarashtra the goings-on the battlefield. It is in Sanjaya's voice that we hear Gita, the dialogue between Krishna and Arjuna. All the Kaurava princes, as well as their commanders, such as Bhishma, Drona, and Karna, were killed in the battle. The 5 Pandava brothers survived as winners and became the rulers of the combined kingdom. This dialogue between Krishna and Arjuna is a dialogue between man and God, or Nara and Narayana, as they are termed in Sanskrit. Arjuna's questions and doubts are those of each one of us. The answers of the divine Krishna transcend time and space. Krishna's message is as valid today as it was on that fateful battlefield some thousands of years ago. Swamiji explains the inner metaphorical meaning of Mahabharata thus: the great war of Mahabharata is the fight between the positive and negative thoughts of the mind called samskaras. The positive thoughts are the Pandava princes, and the negative thoughts are the Kaurava princes. Kurukshetra, or the battlefield, is the body. Arjuna is the individual consciousness, and Krishna is the enlightened master. The various commanders who led the Kaurava army represent the major blocks that the individual consciousness faces in its journey to enlightenment. Bhishma, the grand patriarch of the Kuru clan, represents parental and societal conditioning. Drona, the teacher of both the Kauravas and the Pandavas, represents the conditioning from teachers who provide knowledge, including spiritual guidance. Karna represents the restrictive influence of good deeds, such as charity and compassion. And finally, Duryodhana represents the ego, which is the last to fall. Parental and societal conditioning has to be overcome by rebelling against conventions. This is why, traditionally, those seeking the path of enlightenment are required to renounce the world as sannyasin and move away from civilization. This conditioning does not die as long as the body lives, but its influence drops. Drona represents all the knowledge one imbibes and the teachers one encounters, who guide us but are unable to take us through to the ultimate flowering of enlightenment. It is difficult to give them up, since one feels grateful to them. This is where the enlightened master steps in and guides us. Karna is the repository of all good deeds, and it is his good deeds that stand in the way of his own enlightenment. Krishna has to take the load of Karna's punya, his meritorious deeds, before he could be liberated. The enlightened master guides one to drop one's attachment to good deeds, arising out of what are perceived to be charitable and compassionate intentions. He also shows us that the quest for and the experience of enlightenment is the ultimate act of compassion that one can offer to the world. Finally, one reaches Duryodhana, one's ego, the most difficult to conquer. One needs the full help of the master here. It is subtle work, and even the master's help may not be obvious, since at this point, sometimes the ego makes us disconnect from the master as well. The Great War was between 180 million people, 110 million on the Kaurava side, representing our negative samskaras, stored memories, and 70 million on the Pandava side, representing our positive samskaras, and it lasted 18 days and nights. The number 18 has a great mystical significance. It essentially signifies our 10 senses that are made up of 5 jnanendriya, the senses of perception like taste, sight, smell, hearing, and touch, and 5 karmendriya, the senses initiating action like speech, bodily movements, etc., added to our 8 kinds of thoughts like lust, greed, etc. All 18 need to be dropped for self-realization. Mahabharata is not just an epic story. It is not merely the fight between good and evil. It is the dissolution of both positive and negative samskaras that reside in our body-mind system, which must happen for the ultimate liberation. It is a tale of the process of enlightenment. Mahabharata is a living legend. Bhagavad Gita is the manual for enlightenment. Like Arjuna, many thousand years ago, you are here in a dialogue with a living, enlightened master in this book. This is a tremendous opportunity to resolve all questions and clear all doubts with the master's words. So, what we can understand, some background on the Mahabharata itself as a war between cousins, between families of brothers, and the different characters in the Bhagavad Gita represent different parts of the consciousness that one needs to overcome, from parental conditioning up through teachers, charitable service, and ego as Duryodhana. So the Bhagavad Gita is the mapping of the process that Arjuna goes through in overcoming all of these things with the guidance of the enlightened Master Krishna, that is told through the sight, the seeing of Sanjaya, one of the advisors to Dhritarashtra, the blind king. Amazing to be able to, amazing spaces created. I'm sure some of you are experiencing that right now. The depth and clarity that comes from Swamiji's words is incredible, and I'm really looking forward to getting into the next section of this book, which is the introduction. For now, I'd like to thank everyone, and thank Swamiji, of course, for revealing and making this accessible to us. So I'd like to close this first session by chanting Purna Mantra. So just close your eyes and bring your awareness to your breath. You can bring your awareness to your third eye and visualize Swamiji in your third eye. And just bring a deep remembrance of gratitude. Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Tat Sat. Sarvam Bhagavat Sri Nityananda Paramashiva Parukarpanamastu. Om Nityanandam. So thank you everyone for joining for this first venture into Bhagavad Gita Demystified, one of the greatest epics and sources of enlightenment knowledge, one of the greatest books available to humanity today. And look forward to next session. Thank you very much. Please leave comments, questions, anything else in the comment section, and please share with everyone. And thank you once again for being here. We'll see you next time. Thank you. Nityanandam.